I had every right to complain that the election in Georgia was, in my opinion, rigged.
If there was one state that epitomized Donald Trump's fury over the outcome of the 2020 election, it was Georgia. Biden narrowly took this crucial swing state, and despite numerous alleged schemes to overturn the results, all Donald Trump's efforts failed. Now, with the next presidential election just weeks away, the former president's allies stand accused of trying to sow chaos with a last-minute change of election rules.
We're just tweaking the rules a little bit to make sure that it works the same across the board.
This is about suppressing the vote of black and brown people and women here in Georgia.
Georgia is the birthplace of the civil rights movement. There is nothing they don't know about voter suppression here, which is why the appointment of 3 pro-Trump individuals to the state election board and their introduction of a slate of new voting rules that allow individuals to question the outcome of the elections has Democrats and even some Republicans up in arms.
We've been pushing back against misinformation.
One Republican in particular. Remember him?
So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
It's Brad Raffensperger, Georgia's Republican Secretary of State.
And we have fair, secure, accurate elections here in Georgia.
Who famously refused to do Trump's bidding in 2020, was then removed from the state's election board and Trump loyalists installed instead. And it's they who've passed new rules to make it easier to challenge election results in the future.
I've been very clear that the state election board's a mess.
But how can you undo that mess, though, that you just described? Because isn't that a real problem here?
My job is to do my job. And my job is to walk that line of integrity. And people have to walk a different line if they want to.
I want to introduce our newest member, Janelle King, who just joined the board.
Janelle King is one of the appointees to Georgia's election board who's accused of walking a different line.
So you certify and then you investigate, correct?
She and her Republican colleagues have the majority on the board and controversially passed the new rule that gives local authorities carte blanche to make so-called reasonable inquiries about the election result before they certify it. The accusation is that you and your Republican colleagues have been installed on the state election board to be pro-Donald Trump in the event that come November he doesn't win, and you can potentially halt the certification of the election to launch reasonable inquiries into allegations of fraud.
All we're doing is ensuring that these election officials have all the confidence they need in order to certify within that allotted time frame. Even within the rule, it says that they have to certify by the same time frame as every other state in the United States. So everything is fine.
Everything certainly seems fine for Donald Trump.
The Georgia State Election Board.
He stood on a stage in Georgia and praised your appointment.
They're on fire. Pit bulls fighting for honesty.
Said you were pit bulls fighting for honesty and victory.
That was his words. I don't know where everyone...
Are you fighting for his victory? Should you be fighting for his victory?
No, I'm not. I'm not fighting for anyone's victory. If anybody's victory I would say I'm fighting for, it's voters, our Georgian voters.
Why did he say that then?
I don't know. I'm not in his head. My decisions that I make on this board are my decisions. I haven't spoken with the Trump campaign. I haven't spoken with anyone.
But she and the other Republican political appointees on the board are accused of speaking to Trump activists and introducing the new rules to placate them.
Our job is to go in and kind of, tweak some of the stuff and make sure that we're operating within the law.
And the allegation against you specifically is you are tweaking the rules, but you're not an election specialist.
It doesn't mean I'm doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean I'm doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with supporting the president. There's nothing wrong with being Republican. There's nothing wrong with sitting on the board and doing the right thing. I'm not doing anything wrong.
The Democrats don't agree, and they're suing the state election board, arguing that the rule changes are illegal.
The election results have to be certified by November 14th. But this rule that the State Elections Board has passed now injects discretion into the process, which I think is in part the objective of those who want to have this rule in a state like Georgia, where we anticipate the election results will be very, very close.
We vote! We win! We vote! We win!
Deborah Scott and her team of volunteers run a Get Out the Vote campaign.
When our rights are under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back!
They go door to door in Georgia to ensure that black residents in particular are registered to vote.
I have a good one. You too.
She says last-minute changes to the rules are all about sowing chaos and trying to suppress the vote in communities like these.
Voter suppression is going to die at some point. We know that they keep trying, but we're going to keep undoing what they're doing. So they can set up these fake boards, they can set up these fake committees, but when you're overwhelmingly showing up at the polls, there's nothing they can do.
Back at the election office, Brad Raffensperger believes the same thing, that only voters, not unnecessary new rules, can decide the outcome of November's election.
The potential for chaos is high again. Are you worried about that?
Well, I can't control other people's behavior, but what we can control is make sure we have fair, honest, and accurate elections.
Are you worried you're going to get Donald Trump coming at you again, though?
I'm going to do my job.
We vote!
Which is what Raffensperger says everyone working in Georgia's election has to do. Do the work, hold the line, and let the voters do the talking.
Joining me now from Atlanta is Sarah Tyndall-Gazelle, who's the lone Democrat on the Georgia State Election Board. And just to recap, I mean, what's happened is that the Republican majority have changed the rules so that they can ask what they call reasonable inquiries of the election result before it gets certified. So what is your fear? What are you worried about? Because that sounds sort of reasonable.
Well, of course, reasonable inquiry does sound very rational. The problem lies with not just that, but a second rule that allows an uninhibited request for documents, but it also authorizes a level of inquiry that the statute does not allow. Certification is a really simple process. It's addition. It's all about math. It's about making sure that the number of voters does not exceed the number of ballots cast, and that the number of votes does not exceed either of those. So that's all the certification process is. It's looking at the numbers, making sure they add up, and making sure that every vote has been counted. But the rule that accompanies this reasonable inquiry rule actually authorizes superintendents to do a voter by voter analysis that the statute just doesn't authorize. It authorizes an endless request for documents that may or may not be related to certification. And it really signals to superintendents that certification is a discretionary task.
Right.
Which
I mean, what this sounds like is that we are going to get more chaos in those hours after the American people vote. If this happens, I mean, do you believe that the Republicans on your state board are doing this because they're trying to get Donald Trump into power?
I'm not going to speculate about their motivations, but what I do know is they have outright stated, some of the Republicans on the board have stated that they think that superintendents should be able to throw out entire scanners worth of ballots. So 5,000 ballots at a go. So I'm going to take them at their word and believe that that's what they want to do.
Right. And I mean, and the implication of that would be what? You know, that the election result is not safe, or that there will be delay? I mean, how do you see this playing out? You know, I have enormous faith in the county election administrators. I have enormous faith in our courts. I believe that the elections will be certified on time, but I also believe that there will be a narrative and there will be disinformation about the process itself, and there will be a fair amount of chaos, at least within the public, within the media. But I think if it has to go to the courts, I think the courts will sort it out. So the danger is that were Donald Trump to lose, the narrative will develop over things like this, that this election was also stolen. That's your fear.
That is exactly my fear. I mean, 4 years on, and we still have election officers, election administrators getting death threats. We still have, I mean, you should see my inbox. We still have people who believe that the election 4 years ago was stolen, even though it has been it has been investigated over and over and over again. And that is not healthy for our political bodies. It's not healthy for the body politic. It's what leads to this societal strife.
Right, and this is just one stage. I mean, it's going to be a very fascinating period in those hours after people vote. Sarah Tyndall Gazelle, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.